I think I seen this film before, and I didn't let the ending. You're not my homeland anymore. What if our friend didn't know? Whoa, we got ads. Okay. Hello and welcome back to our tier list video. I guess I'm just gonna be posting yearly on this channel, which is okay for me. I don't have a big problem with posting yearly. Even yearly is a fair bit. I mean, we're already kind of into January, but I figured I need to slip in one last book before I called it quits. But I'll leave that till last because that is gonna be our bombshell drop on the thing here. And let's just go through. Let's just chat. Let's just see what's popping. What's up? What's up? I am. I feel like this year has been like the weirdest year in reading that I've had. I've read a ton of series and like specific authors, but I do feel like while I haven't branched out all that much and I've kind of just stuck to the few things that I like, I feel like I've made pretty good progress for a year that I haven't read that much. I think it's probably my lowest reading year in the past 3 or so years. So take that as you will. But some massive books are on this list. Majority of the books that I read this year were big books. So while there are some short ones, there isn't many short ones. And so yeah, I guess we'll just jump into it. And I think the place I want to start is doing all of the Joe Abercrombie just off the rip. And I know that might be a weird place to start, but that's just how it has to be. So let's organize. I think Heroes, then Red Country, then Sharp Ends, then A Little Hatred, Trouble with Peace, and The Wisdom of the Crowds. And then we'll go into the rest later. A little bit down the line. Okay, let's do all of these first, because this was kind of the end of the First Law trilogy. The end of the First Law for me. I also need to pull up my ratings, and I know that that's almost taboo that I'm looking at my ratings, but like I said, I'm not too sure about this year. It's been a funky donkey year, so I want to make sure that I'm remembering right and I can add or take away my comments as needed. So we're starting off with the heroes, which I think a lot of people are gonna like. I think the heroes over time, as I'm growing and becoming a different person, this could be my favorite Joe Abercrombie book. It could just straight up be my favorite. I think what he does with the scenario at play, and there are look, I'll say there are some parallels to the way that this book was treated and the way that this book was written compared to Wind and Truth, which I kind of read on either sides of the year, but they do a similar thing, and oh my gosh, not to spoil my thoughts on Wind and Truth, but oh my gosh, does this book do it better? I think as this being possibly my favorite Joe Abercrombie book, it's hard to compare this to some of my other favorites because this is such a unique book and it's such a unique perspective and cast of characters. And while it isn't unique for Joe Abercrombie in terms of tone and in terms of like who's there kind of thing, I believe like it feels like nothing else he's ever written. And this book absolutely I don't know why I snap so loudly. This book flies by. I remember just going through it so quickly, absolutely loving this book through and through. And I even named my cat after one of the characters that is in this book because I loved the book so much. And I really like that character a lot. And I just thought the name was really, really cute. So, while the character isn't super cute, I thought it was a super cute pet name. And so there's a special place in my heart with the heroes. And I absolutely love it. Red Country, however, I think we might, yeah, I think we might be giving a C to Red Country. Um, I think Red Country is fine, and there were some parts of it that I genuinely liked, but the majority of it I didn't really find myself caring that much for. And I think it's sometimes hard on Goodreads because like you're programmed to give things a higher rating because of the way that the that it's structured, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. So even if you give something a 3, while you might think it's mid C, 3 is your middle option, and if you put 3 out of 10, it becomes a 6 out of 10. But if you put it on this rating as a C, C is kind of middle. It's then on the lower half of things. So while I don't dislike this book, I actually enjoyed my time reading it. I don't think it's Joe Abercrombie's best work, by a while. And I think it's pretty unmemorable. There are some things I liked about it, but really not a whole lot. Joe Abercrombie's writing obviously was there and it was good, but it didn't really impress me too much with that one. Now, moving on to, so here's where I got to remind myself what I was rating things. All right. Sharp ends. So I'm gonna use Joe Abercrombie as like my like laying out the land, I suppose. He's gonna decide where everything goes in relation to one another. Sharp ends, I think, is a B. There are some great stories in Sharp ends. I think anyone that reads it is going to find something that they love in there. Sharp ends for me is a little less memorable than everything else, so I'm really struggling here to say which ones I liked. I can always refer back to my review, but I suppose you can you could read my review if you wanted. I think my favorite story out of all of them was Wrong Place, Wrong Time. And I can't remember exactly what that was. But yeah, there was some really cool chapters in there. Made a Monster. I do remember that one pretty well. That's the last story in there, and I think a lot of people would find that maybe to be their favorite, but I quite liked it. Pretty similar to Red Country in all honesty, but I think just because the way that Joe Abercrombie writes stories, you don't feel like you're missing out that much with it being short stories. You don't feel like, oh, I need this much of this character, because usually within a chapter or two you can already get a really good sense of who someone is. So I feel like in the way that the short story is written, it's okay, and it does draw off existing stuff. Mad Ship, how did you get up there? I don't know. Now here is where my problems are going to begin, because I loved this series in the beginning, but it kind of fell off towards the end. So much so that I think I gave the last book in the series a pretty harsh rating. Yeah. Which, let me start at the last book of the series and I'll work my way up, because I think that's going to be better. Wisdom of Crowds, and I remember it better. This book was a pretty big letdown for me, and I actually gave it on Goodreads the same rating as Red Country, so I think I might put it down there. Actually, I know how I'm gonna put this. Trouble with Peace and A Little Hatred. For me, it really, that's kind of how it read. I don't dislike the Wisdom of Crowds that much, but I think for me it just was disappointing. It was really, really disappointing. And I think as someone that loved this book, and I gave it a 5 star, A Little Hatred, I was so ready for this series, and I was so ready for this trilogy to do everything that I wanted it to do. And while I was a bit skeptical because the books were so short and it seemed like they were kind of setting up something a little bigger, I do think the shortness of the books really shot them in the foot. And I think maybe it's a bit telling because some of the really long books on here I really loved. Maybe not this one that's really long, but other than that, I love this. I love this initial book in this series, and I think it really kind of fell off. Trouble with Peace, I thought was good, but there was some big glaring problems that I had with it. Specifically about the setup for the trilogy. Like, A Little Hatred didn't really do too much besides set up who's there, why are they there, and what are they doing. And that's what I loved. I thought Joe Abercrombie, does that sort of stuff great, just like a slice of life type of thing. But I think with Trouble with Peace, he sort of bit off a little bit more than he could chew. And I think he went for a bit more of an in-depth plot with, political stuff and all this. And I don't think he gave himself enough time and enough world building and enough machinations and enough real, that meat and potatoes that comes with like a longer, more political, more intricate story. He kind of skipped over. Hold on, can crack. As he typically tends to do, but when the story isn't so focused on the political scheming and the inner workings of the nobility, etc., you can kind of get away with not, fleshing out these ideas as much as you might need to. But I think when you get into something like The Trouble with Peace and the decision that the trilogy starts to take here, you really need to nail, why is everyone doing these things? Why is the world like it is? You need to have these really strong motivations for everyone to do things. And I think when it's a character, he writes those kind of motivations really well. Why is this character going to war? Well, because he's fucked up and he wants to kill people. It's like, yeah, cool, I'm down. But when it's like, why does, this political party or this political person or whatever want to make a political move, he then kind of struggles to push that forward outside of, relying on character. And I don't think in this trilogy it works that well. There you go. I'll talk about Red Rising, which is a series. Me and my boyfriend have been reading. He likes it a lot more than I do. But I'm really trying to come around to it. Morningstar was not bad. Let me find out what I gave it. I think I enjoyed it a fair bit. I did give it a 3-star. So if we're talking stars, it's down here, but I'm going to put it above these two. Look, maybe it's my bias. Maybe there's something going on in the water. I don't know, but I've just really enjoyed the discussions and the, being able to talk about Morningstar and things. I don't know. I think I've found a bit more joy in it post-reading, and so I have a bit more of a fonder memory of it than something like Red Country or Wisdom of Crowds, which I tend to kind of stick in on my dislike for it a little bit more. And I think for me, like, while if I had to choose to reread one of these two books, maybe I could lean more towards the Joe Abercrombie or the Pierce Brown, depending on how I feel. But I think when it comes down to it, I just haven't been a huge fan of Pierce Brown's writing. But I do think his world is really fun and exciting, but Joe Abercrombie I had such an investment with, and I am a huge fan of his writing, so when he does disappoint me a little bit, it feels worse than anyone else doing so. Let's fill out every single category, and let's go with a D. Children, I'm hitting my mic. Hope it's still picking up. Yep. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky is a sci-fi book that I was actually very excited to read. I don't read a ton of sci-fi, so when I do, I'm kind of experimenting and getting outside of my fantasy comfort area, I suppose. There's only 2 sci-fi books on here, so I guess that explains that. But this, it was so dry. And there was, I just couldn't connect to anything in this book. There's an alternate, there's a spider. There's a lot of spider presence in this book, and I just didn't end up caring. It just felt so mundane and repetitive and boring, and it didn't feel like you were getting anywhere. I'm really a character focused reader, which is why I think something like Children of Time really just did not work for me, because I want these cool, interesting, fun characters to follow. And something like The Expanse, which is a series that I've read through fully and really, really love some of it. Some of it I was a little disappointed in, but this is not about The Expanse. I guess there's 3 sci-fi. Yeah, Morningstar, Dune Messiah, and Children of Time. So I'll go over Dune as well in a second. But I thought Children of Time was like the version of sci-fi that I just do not like at all. Pierce Brown's Morningstar, though, it has a ton of character in it, and while I'm not completely head over heels for everyone, I could even see myself putting Morningstar in low B. But I'll leave it down there just because of the rating. The rating that I gave it is reflective of C. But it could move up here, by the end of the video. So I'm really tempted to move between there. But yeah, Children of Time. Oh my god, people like it. A lot of people really like it. So I don't know what I missed. I feel like I missed everything. I swear to God, there wasn't anything to like about this book. But I'll move on. It was just super dry. It didn't have the flavor that I liked. That makes something like The Heroes, so juicy, and I love it. And last we will go Dune Messiah. I think I gave this a 4, maybe right in there. Yeah, that feels really good actually. Dune Messiah, or maybe I gave it a 3-star. Hold on, let me go see. Dune Messiah. I did give it a 3-star. I'm giving these both a 3-star. I don't know what I liked more, Dune Messiah or Morningstar. That is really tough, actually. I feel like they have to go together. I might do this. I'm gonna do that. This feels kind of crazy because I gave these 3.5, and I gave this a 3, but there's a part of me that is star rating isn't always reflective of like something like a tier list or a preference rating. And I feel like kind of when you're matching things up, you just want to move things more organically where you'd prefer them to be. And so while like maybe, yeah, my experience reading Dune Messiah was a 3-star, I do feel like there was a lot that I gained from it, and I felt like it was still, an interesting thing to read, whereas I just felt quite disappointed in these 2 books. I wasn't necessarily like outright disappointed in Dune Messiah because I knew what I was getting myself into. So I'm gonna leave them there. I don't know. Let's do that. Let's hop, skip, jump onto a more positive note. And do Stephen King's The Stand, which I don't know where I want to put it. I honestly don't. It's S tier. I don't know if it's above Heroes. I don't know if it's below Heroes, but let's talk about it and see where we end up. This book is incredible. It is really long. There is a lot of drawn out. See, okay, it's going behind Heroes because it is too long. There are some sequences and some areas of this book that I think really do need to be tightened up. I don't necessarily think the shortened version of The Stand is the answer, but it could be. I haven't read the shortened version of The Stand. But the stuff that I would cut out is a lot of the book gets a little political, I would say, without trying to spoil too much, at about the 60 to 70% mark. And I would really trim most of that out. And I think you've got like an amazing, incredible book. That area of the book, that portion of the book, I really did start struggling. Yeah, I just did a poop, or maybe a pee. But I think this book is like insane. It's one of those books that's like just really transformative. You read it and you're just like, holy shit! Like throughout the whole thing, how can someone even dream up this sort of story? And so it's crazy. It's amazing. It's a whole thing. The Stand is weirdly not that memorable for a book that is so big and long, but I think a lot of it is like vibes. It's super vibes heavy and character focused, and like I need to read more Stephen King because this was amazing, and I don't really read enough of him, but it's almost like Studio Ghibli films. I haven't watched all of them, so it's really nice to like, take them as they go. And in that same sentence, I think I'm gonna have to bring up George R. Martin's A Storm of Swords. This thing is just insane. it's probably the best book that I've read all year. Although I'm still looking at a few of those ones down there. I'm still looking. This book is everything it's cracked up to be. It truly is everything it's cracked up to be. George R. Martin is like unlike anyone else. Can get a bit boring at times, but it is not in the way that The Stand bored me. It was just like it almost felt like a bit of a choice. Like, oh, okay, we're learning about something that I'm not necessarily so interested in, or like we're going to an area that I'm not so interested in. I can just kind of, you know, not zone out, but like this, I can kind of sit on the back seat and just chill and like, you know, read through this bit. Doesn't have to be my favorite, but it's still like beautiful writing and heaps of world building and heaps to grapple with. Whereas The Stand, I felt sometimes, you know, when it got to bits that I didn't care about, I was literally just like, okay, let's move on. Like, I wish I could just skip through. Whereas Storm of Swords, I never wanted to skip through. I don't think. I could be wrong. Some Bran. Is Bran even in this book? Maybe he's in the previous ones. I don't know. It's been a while since I read this one, but it is insane, undefeatable. Probably my favorite of the year, but we'll see. Oh gosh. Okay, hold on. All right, Gardens of the Moon. I'm gonna put top of B. Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe in between Trouble with Peace and Sharp Ends. Gardens of the Moon was a great book. Pretty full on, pretty insane, pretty, you know, everything you expect from Malazan. It is everything people say it is. Maybe it's not as complicated as some people say, but it's still pretty complicated, and I think it depends on the type of reader that you are. If you want everything as it's happening, that might make Malazan harder for you, but I mean, I kind of just roll with the punches and see where it gets me, and I found a lot to love about Gardens of the Moon. Can be a little dry, it can be a little, you know, at times, but that's just kind of the way that Steven Erikson sets up this book and this series. It's very much so like there's all this stuff going on, and you can delve as deep as you want into it, and you can care about all these little side things and tangents and little things that are he's sprinkled all throughout the world. You know, it doesn't get explained. Obviously, that's like the big thing with Malazan. But I think it really does work for what it's trying to do. It can be a little bit hard to get invested in sometimes, and you're kind of shifting around and you don't know what anyone is or what's happening. That's why it's not as high as some of the other books on here. But yeah, I'll go Spear Cuts Through Water next. This book was just like good. I mean, a whole lot to say about it, and that's kind of how I felt when I was reading it. I was like, well, this is good. I don't really have any complaints. There's nothing that I think is downright like bad about the book, but I'm also like not completely, you know, head over heels for it. So it's good. I mean, it's good. I was thoroughly entertained. I was happy to put this on an audiobook when I was driving to work, you know. It was good. Oh, and I need to say about Morningstar, the audiobook made me really, really like this. So I think with that in mind, I could potentially. I think that's why I was flirting with putting Morningstar up there, because the audiobook was actually really, really cool, and it just really got me a lot more invested in the book. If I listened to the whole thing on audio, it'd probably be sitting up there. Which actually it kind of feels right. Doom Messiah being down here, I think Doom Messiah is a better book. But Dune Messiah bored the ever living hell out of me. There was just conversations and like useless garbage. I want to see. I want the George R. Martin. Where there's also a lot of conversations and boring garbage, but it's like the type of boring garbage that I like. So I suppose that's how it is. That's how it is. Lapvona, probably down there. I want to love Lapvona, you know what I mean? Like I want to be one of the weird girls that's like, I think the book's amazing, but it's bizarre. I thought it was good though. I don't dislike Lapvona, but I think it's deserving of its like lower Goodreads review. it's a little bit performative, I think, at times in how weird and freaky and gross it wants to be. But it's good. A certain type of person will like it. Probably not me. Someone. Um, let's do the Lycanius business. The Will of the Many. I love this book a lot. I was probably a little bit cooler on it than other people. I did like it, but there were some things about it that I wasn't, completely enamored with. So that's kind of why it's in A instead of S. Um, a bit like A Little Hatred. I mean, I really liked A Little Hatred at the time of reading it, but now that I finished the trilogy, it's hard to reconcile what I thought of it at the time. But these books could very easily be like S and A is kind of my 5-star area anyway, so these could pretty easily move up and be on the back end here. So it's not a huge distinction, but it's a great book. I think a lot of people are correct about this being one of the coolest series that has, come out of fantasy recently. It's a lot better than what we got coming up next. So let's just go through all of James Arlington, then we'll do Robin Hobb, then we'll do Brandon Sanderson on the end. So Shadow of What Was Lost, I actually quite enjoyed. This fits, yeah, that's kind of perfect for where I would put it. I think, right? I didn't give it any crazy kind of rating. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Let me review Goodreads. Yeah, so Shadow of What Was Lost was a good book. A very mysterious setup and very, unknown world that you're kind of stepping into. I liked most of the characters. I think it set itself up pretty well. There wasn't anything completely groundbreaking at all within this story, but I enjoyed it and I was ready to continue on and experience the rest of the trilogy. And the rest of the trilogy was pretty mid. I don't really know where to put these. I'm just going to stuff them both back here. They're not that good. They're not bad. The series never, for me, got to a point where it was bad. It just got to a point where I didn't really care that much for it. I really I struggled to put on the audiobooks. I found myself just wanting to read something else. But when I did pick it up and when it did hit and when the things finally did pop off as they were supposed to, I found myself enjoying it. I wouldn't really recommend this trilogy to someone. I think it starts pretty strong, then it kind of tapers off towards the end. I just feel like there are better things to go and spend your time reading, and that's how I felt at the end of it. I got there and I said, well, I kind of wish I'd just spent all this time reading something else. I can barely distinguish the second book from the third one in my mind now because I actually don't think about the series anymore. It's fluttered away, so I don't know what to tell you. Let's do Robin Hobb. Ship of the Live Ship Traders trilogy. This is tough for me. I actually can't remember where I would put these. I think Mad Ship, the second book, and Ship of Destiny, maybe here. Oh, well, they're both amazing books. Robin Hobb is Robin Hobb. You know what I mean? You're getting Robin Hobb. You're doing that thing. You know what you're getting into. I'm gonna leave the heroes or just heroes above it. I do think these are, in my mind, I have more fond memories of reading these than I do of reading Ship of Destiny. I mean, above Stephen King, I do kind of think so. I think The Stand is great. It's just got its flaws. It's little flaws, but it kind of, they are there. Whereas I think Mad Ship and Ship of Destiny, I don't really feel like these books have major flaws at all. I think they're both 5-star books. Yeah, at times slow and meandering, but and then I was like, but I love it. You know, it's my favorite thing ever. So, um, while I wouldn't say it has similar issues to Stephen King's The Stand, but while I wouldn't say I forgive all the slow and meandering stuff within The Stand, but I do forgive Robin Hobb for it. She can do what she wants. Fool's Errand. This is gonna be tough. I'm a Robin Hobb stan. Do I think it's better than Heroes? Oh, I think it might be. I think it might be. This book is great. This book is so good. I think the first trilogy, I can understand the critiques that people sometimes have with it, and even I started getting a little bit frustrated with the first trilogy at times about it being too slow or it being too this or too that. This book, I genuinely think, is like perfection. She's not going on this huge, long live ship traders thing. She is not going on this crazy, the early books in the Farseer trilogy thing, which, love it or hate it, it was committed. This book is, oh my god, it's so good. I do think Storm of Swords is like it's one of those like generational books that just changes everything, and I think people do give George R. Martin his flowers, and he deserves them, and I got to do it now too. And I stand the fuck behind that decision. But God, is Fool's Errand a good book? I like this. And we're all tied up on the having 6 books in your column thing. A is a bit scant because it's a bit like, well, it's a low 5-star kind of thing. These books are great. But they're not like, they're not S tier, they're A tier. And then we have Wind and Truth, which is probably going to eat up the majority of the end of this video, and it's going to be spoiler free. Spoiler free. Let me just start off by saying I don't know what I think about this book. I don't know if I hate it deeply. I don't know how much I hate it. I don't know. I don't know. I did not care for this book. Did I not care for it as much as some of the other books on this list? Eh? But I did not care for it. I need to make another. I need to make another row. This needs to be F, and this needs to be D. And I think, I need to put this book here. I'm so conflicted on this book. When I think about Wind and Truth, I was doing this today in the car ride home because I had finished it. I literally today, so I'm still trying to digest some of it. Although, to be honest, there's not a whole lot to digest. And I was thinking, like, which POV characters did I actually like? And I started going down the list. Okay, who are the main players of this book? And again, spoiler free. We got Kaladin Stormblast, and I mean, okay, spoiler free to the point where I'll say who's alive if that's a problem. If you're on book 2 or whatever, Kaladin Stormblast. I was like, well, I don't like what happened to him in this book. I don't think he was bad. I actually quite enjoyed a lot of Kaladin's stuff, and he's definitely one of the higher, more interesting POVs that I have for this book. But I think a lot of my problems with this book also stem from Kaladin. So I'm very conflicted. On one hand, I absolutely just hated a certain part of his character, which I think most people can figure out what that would be if you've read the book. But I did enjoy a lot of, especially chapter like the first part of the book. It's very Kaladin focused in the very beginning, and I absolutely loved that. I thought it was great. There were some things that were Kaladin adjacent that I really didn't like, and there were some things that I didn't really like. But him just like living and chatting to people in the beginning of this book was like really, really cool. I really, really liked that. It even got me emotional at one point, misty eyed. And don't let me foil the fun. But that was the most emotional I got throughout the whole book. Even the ending of Stormlight 5. The ending of Stormlight 5. Oh, I'm going to talk myself to putting this further down. I'm going to talk myself to putting this further down. No. Oh, no. That's the problem too, is if I think about it, it's going to go lower. The more that I think about it, it's going lower. I'm getting disheveled. Goodness gracious. Yeah. The ending of this book, I won't spoil anything. I won't spoil a single thing. But I didn't cry at all. And I don't expect people to. Because I don't think it was written well. And I will stand on this point. Let me tell you about... I'm going to rant. And I knew I was going to rant when I came into this one. I've got so much to say about this damn book. I'm going to freak out. Wait, so POVs. Kaladin was fine. I think overall, if I found myself reading this as if it was a normal Stormlight book and there was other POVs that I was interested in, Kaladin, I'd be like, yeah, he was good. It wasn't like a standout for the book, but he was good. Because everyone else was doo-doo caca ass, Kaladin is possibly my favorite POV in the book. And that is crazy given the fact that there's negatives about him. They're big negatives. I may as well get out the way now. Seth. I had a major issue with Seth in this book. I just couldn't empathize with his character. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I kind of can't spoil why. But I just think the way that he was written, his psychology, his outlook on things was so not how anyone has ever acted before in their life. It was this like new personality that has never existed before. This like so robotic, so bizarre, like bizarro, weird ass, whatever way of living. And then the justification for it was not, oh, this is just how he is or whatever. It was just, it had to be explained through this like long ass backstory. And I just couldn't rationalize this kind of, I couldn't stand by that kind of behavior. I couldn't figure out why he would act that way. And I read the flashbacks and I saw that, whatever. I just couldn't, it didn't convince me. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about writing a character. You can't convince, sorry, I'm playing with my, you can't convince the reader that this is a genuine character. This is a character that's like feels real. Like if you can't make them feel any kind of real, it just doesn't work for me. I'm just sitting there and and it's frustrating. It's a really frustrating character too. So I think on one hand, it wasn't that believable that someone would act like this given, you know, what they had been through. Which you get drip fed throughout anyway, so you don't even know most of the time while you're dealing with his ass, and you're just like, well, possibly there's a reason. I don't know what the second point I was gonna make was, and I feel like I started a list of two things. So you're gonna get one. I just Seth, I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I didn't like him. Couldn't do it. Big part of this book too. Who else next? Dalinar. I will go Dalinar and Navani. Personality wise, fine. Couldn't give a damn about what they were doing. I could not give a damn. I could not care. I don't want to see it. Oh, and the way that everything, I swear, in this book, the way that everything needs to be explained 4 times over like I'm a goddamn toddler, piss me off. I don't know if... I feel like I'm schizo posting. I'm bouncing around between every idea. I don't know if Brandon Sanderson's writing has been like this in previous books. I know in The Secret Projects, he wrote in a style that just started to really irk me and really do my head in. And I ended up not liking any... Well, that's not true. I thought Yumi and the Night Panic was fine. Tress I liked because I thought it was unique when I first read Tress. I thought this humor is unique. This kind of outlook is unique. He doesn't tend to write stories like this. It's cool. I'm down for it. I liked it. Coming out of all 4 Secret Projects and now reading this book, I'm really starting to question what the hell has happened. What did COVID do to bro? Because I don't know. Maybe my taste has just changed. Maybe he always wrote like this, which I don't believe he does. But this book is so unserious. I couldn't find myself caring about anything. The casual nature, the tone in which he writes in this book is so frustrating because you could have this incredible scene or this incredible character moment, and there's a particular character moment that really irks me, but you could be watching the scene unfold of this incredible character moment. There is one that could have been so good, and it kind of was, but it was such a standout compared to everything else that like it almost felt like, well, he tried for one, chapter or a certain few scenes, and then he kind of just went back to being funny and silly about everything. There's so many things in this book that are like a silly or a joke, and then when you get to the climax, when you get to the crazy, emotional, bigger moments, you're not used to this tone. You're not used to this being a serious thing. So when you get there, there's no reason for you to take it seriously because you're like, well, I didn't care before. You can't just randomly switch up the tone and start using like, and he persisted, like in all caps and making it italics and being like an epic, cool moment. Oh my gosh, there was a moment with Kaladin that there was some fucking moments in this goddamn book, but there was one with Kaladin that was so egregious and horrible. I felt like I was being sold a goddamn product. I felt like I was literally being made fun of. I couldn't fathom that someone would write that down and think I tore. Are we reading the same? Did anyone proofread this? Did your editor look at this? Do you even have an editor? I don't know. Did your editor look at someone saying, he's got a hot, sexy ass? That bloke's got a hot ass. And go like, oh, maybe we should include that in this book. Did someone not read you going, let's kick some fused ass, and go, well, maybe that doesn't really fit the tone of Rosha, right? And look, I can't remember much from the first 3 books. I know with book 4, I struggled with it a little bit. I didn't find it as interesting. I thought it was pretty dry and whatever. I was struggling a little bit with book 4, so I gave it a 4-star. But the rest of the series for me was a 5-star. Was it always this bad? Or am I actually crazy? Because I feel like I was reading a completely different author. I felt like I was reading AI, Brandon Sanderson, where someone said, right at the end of Stormlight 5, and put some jokes in that bitch. Like, I'm so confused about how this got off the freaking floor. That there is two characters. Well, no, there's a lot of characters that go on this journey thing, and it takes up so much of this long ass book that we just have to sit through. Oh my god, I'm pissed off. I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of good things about this book. I honestly can't. Trying to talk about there's one thing that they did to a character I like. I hated it. And what makes me so frustrated, so annoyed, is that other authors on this list can do that same thing or flirt with those same ideas. But I feel like there was a key point of misunderstanding of how mature his reader base was. This felt so self-referential. This felt so self-aware. This felt horribly self-aware. I felt like I was being referenced. I was being referenced. The earlier books in the series were being referenced verbatim on the page as if it was like a funny reference. And I know that it's the same character that's saying the reference to something they said earlier, but it's so corny. It's so stupid. And I try. I think of a good POV. Who was good? Shallan? No. Shallan? No. That wasn't good. Yasna was okay, but there was a scene and I did not like that shit at all. I thought that shit was bunk. Renarin? Boring as hell. Rlain? Boring as hell. I don't care about them. Do I understand what the hell they did in the end? Not really. Did they understand what they did in the end? Not really. What the hell was all that? Venli? God. I don't care, bro. Most boring POV of the book. Venli, don't even know her last name. Does she have one? I don't know. Sigzil, honestly, wasn't that bad. But it chewed up a lot of goddamn time. I wish Sigzil was, wasn't such a goddamn focus. Who else we got? Adolin. I think I talked about him. No. I understand why everyone likes Adolin in this book. Like why it's a huge, why it's really appealing to some people. And as an Adolin stan, I gotta give some points where they're due, but I think there is a certain beauty in being like a little bit further away from some characters, because it doesn't allow Brandon Sanderson to taint them with his grubby freaking hands. Renarin, a standout character from the previous books, but really mysterious. You didn't really know much about him, but I thought he's cool. He's a kid. He's struggling with the world, whatever. He's cool. The second you get put into his head, boring ass shit. I don't want to read that. Garbage. Boring. Boo. Tomatoes. What the hell? Adolin. Such a cool character. It's a compelling guy. Normal guy. But in this book, he's made out to be this like crazy but he's not bad. I will say, look, I'll stop and say he's not that bad, but there is something that occurs with him later on, and it pissed me off. It didn't feel right. Give Joe Abercrombie Adolin in the later portion of this book and see what happens. Give Joe Abercrombie Adolin and see what happens. How would he write Adolin? What would Adolin do? What would happen to Adolin? Imagine it through George R. Martin. A character like this through George R. Martin's lens, through Joe Abercrombie's lens, through Robin Hobb's lens. Now think of what he did, what Brandon Sanderson did. That shit is fucking bunk, bruh. Bunk. Who else was a POV? I don't even know. I think I might have gone through them all. What a sad fucking group. What a sad day. The epilogue? The epilogue to Stormlight Archive 5. That's the epilogue we get. Here you go. Here's a little joke. You just finished Stormlight 5? Here's a little joke. Read this and have a little bit of a laugh, eh? What the hell? I will say, I do like the way that he set up the later half of the series. I think if we didn't do what we did, I could see this series getting a little bit boring, a little bit meh, a little kind of whatever. But it feels really predetermined, you know. Oh, I wanted to tell this book, you know, I wanted to, you know, incorporate Mistborn 3. I wanted to, you know, do Mistborn, you know, Mistborn Era 2, Mistborn Era 3. You know, I wanted to bring in the Elantris shit, whatever. We know that it's fucking Cosmere, whatever. But, like, it felt really like, okay, like, I can see why you chose to do that. Like, it doesn't feel like a natural progression of the world. It feels like, oh, well, the author just chose to do this shit because it's going to be quite convenient for his storytelling going forward. I didn't love that. The way that it created that feeling within me, that, and a lot of the choices here just feel really shoehorned in, you know. They just feel like they're plopped in because they're relevant, and you know, this is just checking boxes. Oh, I need the character arc. Okay, so I need this and this to happen. So I'm just gonna, you know, wait a little bit, and okay, I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna wait a little bit, and then I'm gonna chuck in that little bit of, you know, character growth there, and it's all really whatever. I will say that the ending, there were some parts of the ending that were really, really. Let me say this: from like parts 1 and 2. I was like, oh, I feel like, you know, he's making it really obvious where the story's going to go. But, you know, I feel like it's, you know, the classic misdirect. It's a little on the nose for a misdirect, you know. I almost feel like it's a little, you know, a little crazy, but we'll move on. And then the ending of the book is kind of just that. I'm like, okay. I'm not that surprised. I was barely surprised during this damn book. And, oh, that breathing. And, yeah, I didn't predict the ending, which, you know, I wasn't trying to predict the ending, but I was just like, I was excited. I was like, okay, I feel like lots of crazy things are going to go down. I'm not going to be able to predict the ending. While I didn't predict the legitimate ending, I wasn't all that satisfied with it. And there were some elements of it that were so predictable. Like, not the ending, but like parts of the ending. Who was going to be Odium's champion? Like, did you even try? I don't know. I guess being an author is hard when people are predicting and you know, pulling things together. You kind of, they're going to figure out where you're going to take the book before you write the book, maybe. But goodness gracious me. I'll have to end it there, otherwise I'm going to keep going. I don't know what I'm going to rate this thing on Goodreads. I don't even want to rate it. I want it to burn in hell. I don't want to. Oh. I'm thinking about the ending. The writing of the ending sucked, bruh. Sucking nuts and fucking fat dick and ass. I was like, oh, here's a. Let me explain 50 million concepts to you. Not even concepts. Let me just re-explain the premise of the Stormlight Archive to you over and over and over. Let me just tell you Oh, what's Odium gonna do? Fuck off. I can figure that shit out, bruh. Give me less. Give me fucking less. Why was this thing so long? I'm done. What's a good thing I can say? Um, what's a positive I can say about it? Um,